Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahasham, Barakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who ruled and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure unto the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off in Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe or destruction to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And that devil or deceiver is speaking of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, specifically the elites, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, these elite banking and, hidden families. And they're coming down in great wrath because, as it says, they have but a short time. Esau is getting exposed on every level. You got the EP files out there. You've got a Rothschild becoming a household name. Brothers have been making the rounds with this one clip of this Edomite going into the origins of the name Rothschild or Red Shield and how it links back to the Edomites. More and more people are talking about the NWO, the great RESET, all these draconian measures, building a digital, cashless society, all these things. And Esau, the elites first and foremost see that the nation of Israel is waking up, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and that the prophets are out preaching this word. And they understand the scriptures and know that when these things take place, whatever heathen nation that's ruling at the time is about to be taken out of power. And they also know what the fate of their nation is. 1,000 years of hardcore bondage and slavery before their nation is completely taken off the face of the earth. So they're about to pull out all the stops to bring about this NWO, that great RESET. And America is going to be ground zero for all the horrors that are about to take place. And they've got the perfect president in office to push these draconian, totalitarian, I'm forgetting the word, measures, which brings me to my first article on thenewrepublic.com. Trump's ICE is quietly stockpiling weaponry, and it should alarm us all. In addition to staffing up at a furious rate, ICE and CPB are acquiring a vast cache of weapons from private contractors. New data reveals this will not end well or anytime soon. And, ICE has been the perfect cover to push a lot of these measures into place. Oh, we need AI for surveillance for illegal immigration. We need to retrofit warehouses into detention centers to hold these immigrants. Oh, they're violent criminals. Oh, we need to arm our officers for their own safety. But best believe all these tools are going to be turned against the average American citizen, especially you Israelites. And we can already see with the way ICE has been moving in certain instances. It hasn't just been illegal immigrants getting rounded up. It's been legal migrants getting rounded up. And what? You've had those situations with Renee Good and Alex Preddy. The forever wars abroad and the global war on terror after the September 11th attacks left behind a long trail of failure, disillusionment, and death. But they also funneled huge sums of taxpayer money to companies that supplied the equipment that made all that destruction possible. And look at what happened after 9/11, the Patriot Act, which pushed, a lot of surveillance measures in its own right, taking away, rights of citizens. all in the name of safety and security. What does it say in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5? When they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. And then you had, that devil Benjamin Franklin say, a population that would give of its freedom for peace and security deserved neither. That resulted in windfalls for GOP-connected companies and fueled a massive public-private bureaucracy that grew harder to rein in as it metastasized to monstrous proportions. Something like this is happening again in a different theater of operations. Donald Trump's campaign of violent mass deportations. And, I've played some videos going into it in previous lessons, but, information has come out that those Northern Kingdom or so-called Latinos in these different detention facilities, or even that have been deported outside of the country to, say, San Salvador, a lot of them have been getting raped and abused. Northern Kingdom women have shown up pregnant in these detention facilities. There was even one Northern Kingdom that was found lynched with his hands and his feet tied behind his back. Donald Trump's campaign of violent mass deportations is becoming its own forever war. It could drag on for years or decades without success. It's producing misguided military occupations of restive local populations. It has launched a huge arms buildup, and it also has what might be termed its very own war profiteers, to wit, a handful of private companies that manufacture weaponry and ammunition have already inked very lucrative contracts with the Department of Homeland Security, which will provide it with enormous stockpiles of military-style equipment, some to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, according to data from Senator Adam Schiff's office, which is probing DHS contracts. The pileup of all that equipment hints at a major long-term problem. Just as we saw in the long aftermath of September 11th, this new and evolving MAGA terror bureaucracy will expand in grotesque ways. It too will grow less constrained as it amasses more troops and more firepower. This is Isaiah chapter 19, verse 4. And when you read this chapter, it talks about Egypt, but this isn't talking about ancient Egypt. This is talking about spiritual, modern Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8, the United States of America. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord, Yahweh of hosts. And, Donald Trump, Nero 47, is perfectly fitting this role as the cruel Lord and the fierce king set over Egypt. Look at just what we're reading about in that article, and look at the things, he's been saying and doing within this first year of him being in office. And it's only going to get crazier as things go forward. Remember, he posted on his, I think it was his Twitter account, where he quoted Napoleon saying that sometimes a leader has to disregard the laws of the land to get things done. That sounds like the words of a tyrant, a king, a dictator. And remember what he said recently when, the courts were striking down his tariff measures. I can pretty much do anything I want. But, like I've been saying, all this equipment is going to be turned on you U.S. citizens. Verse 2 in Isaiah 19, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. And, a lot of those members in ICE are Americans, especially Edomite Americans, white nationalists, neo-Nazis, KKK, whatever you want to call them. They see this as their opportunity to really make America great again. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight, everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city and kingdom against kingdom. Civil war on the streets of America. The pileup of all that equipment hints, Salakia. A harrowing glimpse of this future lies in a new report by Schiff that has gotten surprisingly little notice. It finds that Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Protection have formally approved contracts, now listen to this, for at least a whopping $144 million in weapons. Hey, that number 144, the Lord is signing, sealing, and delivering these prophecies in weapons, ammunition, and other accessories during Trump's first year. And just as those of the elect of the 144,000 in America are going to be shielded from this destruction, hey, 2/3 of our people, hey, they're going to, this $144 million worth of weapons and ammunition is going to be directed towards you. Remember what it said back in Revelation 12, verse 12, woe to the earth and the inhabitants therein. The analysis, based on government contracting data, documents at least a 4-fold increase for ICE and a doubling for CBP relative to 2024, concluding that this will build a heavily armed domestic police force. It's eye-opening stuff. One ICE contract is with Geisel Automatics for millions of dollars worth of precision long guns and accessories to support armed agents and other ICE operations, Schiff's report says. This involves an unknown number of Geisel Border Patrol rifles, the report notes, describing this weapon as an AR-style rifle with military specifications. CBP contracted for millions of dollars more in rifles as well. ICE and CBP also contracted with Glock for millions of dollars in handguns and accessories, the report says. Taking all these contracts together, the report starkly concludes ICE and CBP have together placed orders to purchase thousands of new, high-powered lethal weapons at taxpayers' expense. But wait, there's still more. The report documents ICE and CBP contracts totaling more than $30 million in ammunition and more than $25 million in contracts for the non-lethal weapons. That's not a reassuring description. They include tasers, pepper spray, and tear gas canisters. And hey, that's just what they're buying now. If you remember, back during Obama's presidency, the DHS, or Department of Homeland Security, bought hundreds of millions of hollow point ammunition rounds. Doesn't matter whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. They're all playing to the tune of these elites. In short, we're looking at a massive stockpiling of weapons that will be in ICE and CBP's possession for years to come. And someone is supplying all that equipment. Now I'm going to jump around a bit. These contracts expose how DHS has set in motion a massive surge in spending to put even more dangerous weapons in ICE and CBP's arsenal, Schiff told me in an emailed statement. This misuse of taxpayer dollars to maximally arm federal immigration agents, including those with questionable vetting and insufficient training, must end. You know, pretty much any goddamn body can become an ICE agent. ICE, of course, has long been an overly militarized agency, including under Democratic presidents. But under Trump, this has escalated dramatically. ICE aims to continue vastly expanding its recruiting, fueled by tens of billions in new federal dollars. And under Trump, this bureaucracy is unshackling itself in fresh ways, conducting warrantless arrests, expanding surveillance capabilities with AI and tech companies like, Grok with Elon Musk or Palantir, and building an archipelago of enormous new prison camps, which the other day I did a lesson showing how they've got incinerators that they're going to install in those camps. Meanwhile, just like the Forever Wars, this fiasco is also birthing its own captive constituencies and internal political momentum. This includes everyone from the private contractors supplying it to the large population of MAGA-adjacent young and not-so-young men signing up for ICE, which writer John Gans describes as an employment program for the Trumpian proletarian mob, i.e., Edomites, disgruntled so-called white men who see themselves as losing their country, losing their women, losing their way of life. So they're about to lash out. Hey, they also play a part in that devil coming down in great wrath because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. An entity this hyper-militarized, especially one simultaneously aimed at immigrants, will inevitably attract so-called white nationalists and evolve into a political paramilitary force in thrall to ideologically aligned leaders, as Substacker Brian Butler explains. This is borne out in ICE recruitment messaging, which explicitly seeks to get recruits invested in the mission of achieving national rejuvenation by employing cleansing ethno-nationalist violence. Hey, everybody that is a proponent of the Turner Diaries wet dream coming to fruition. But that's it with this article. Now I'm gonna go to my next bit of information. Actually, I'll play this clip first. And this is from a movie called Dope, which came out in 2015. And as you can see, the title reads Drone Strikes and Gang Fights. And, this scene always stood out to me. And, I've referenced it in several videos. I've played it without the audio, but shit, we're at the end of all things. So I'm going to play it with the audio, and I don't get a copyright strike. But just in case, this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And remember what we read in that article. They were warning of the mass bureaucracy and militarization that came from 911. Similar things are happening with ICE in the name of illegal immigration, surveillance expanding, militarized police expanding, and armaments on the streets, going from foreign forever wars to domestic forever wars. But again, fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Boom! Damn, nigga, that was ill. This nigga ain't no wet. Check this nigga out. Walking this jihad dog and shit, scratching his nuts. Yeah, see, nigga. This shit crazy. Yo, man, straight up, I really used to think Obama was a bitch, man. Drones, though, nigga? That's some gangster shit.
This came out during Obama's presidency. And like I just said, during his watch, you had DHS buy hundreds of millions of rounds of hollow point ammunition.
I need one of them motherfuckers.
Yeah. This shit ain't funny. It's fucked up if you really think about it.
How, nigga? He killing all them Al-Qaedas and shit?
Nigga, that ain't all that gets killed. And the nigga saying he could drone strike Americans too. They killed an American working with them niggas in Yemen.
Man, he was a terrorist, dog. So it's like set tripping. You can't decide to be a blood, then get mad if the Crips try to kill you and shit.
Hey, read between the lines. Talking about terrorists and then bringing up the Bloods and the Crips, gang members, which are what? of the so-called Negroes, so-called African Americans, Judites of the Southern Kingdom. We have a saying over here at GMS, the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Latinos and Native Americans get it first, which is what you're seeing with ICE, but the Southern Kingdom gets it the worst. Best believe all these things are going to be moved towards the Southern Kingdom, all 12 tribes. And, Trump said, about a year ago that, while we do have violent, illegal immigrants, hey, we have violent citizens within this country that we may need to find ways to deport as well. Talking about you so-called Negroes. And also, remember, I think it was back in August or September, you had those ICE riots over in Los Angeles, and they were using drones over there, and the Marines and National Guard were deployed. Another soft run to see how the people are going to react before the time comes to really make their moves, which, as we saw from that first article, they're preparing for accordingly.
Man, all I'm saying is, this shit started somewhere like Pakistan or some shit. Before you know it, they start saying that we're the terrorists. They gonna have planes riding all around Inglewood, dropping bombs on Crenshaw and shit, man.
Slippery slope.
And that's exactly what's going to happen, as we read in that article. You got ethno-nationalist violence with these ICE members looking to bring back America, and a domestic, heavily armed police force, and warehouses being opened up to so-called detain illegal immigrants, but eventually to detain you American citizens who buck up against the system as this system continues to collapse, economically especially. I just saw a video from the elder brother Malcolm of the Chicago camp going into some information about how you've got all these different countries looking for financial and trade alternatives to the United States of America, European countries included, pretty much planning on cutting America out of the global, economy. And then also he played a clip where these European countries are creating a different, financial transaction system called Wero, WERO, after they saw how Visa and MasterCard cut Russia out of its transactions because of the war in Ukraine. But remember what he said. First it starts off in some place in the Middle East, but what happens if they start bombing, Oakland, Crenshaw, places where Israelites dwell? This is Luke chapter 19. I'm going to start at verse 41. And when he was come near, speaking of Yahushai, he beheld the city, Jerusalem, and wept over it, saying, if thou hadst known, even thou at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace. Yahushai and his disciples were preaching the kingdom of heaven back then. But what? The Pharisees and Sadducees and the majority of the circumcision didn't take heed to the word. And then, 70 AD happened years later, where the Romans came in and destroyed the second temple, killed many Israelites, and sacked Jerusalem. As it says in Romans 15, everything written aforetime was written for our learning. Those Romans are about to come in again, these Americans, and sack Jerusalem again and kill a lot of you Israelites again. Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. So you Israelites, of all 12 tribes who are primarily dwelling in America, you're about to be besieged. And, just as Yahushua was preaching the kingdom of heaven back then in repentance, that's what his men are doing today. The prophets, chiefly of GMS or Great Millstone, out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles like this. But just as the majority of Israelites back then didn't take heed to Yahushua, we see you 2/3 are doing the same now. But, as he said, at least if thou hadst known, even thou at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace. But now they are hid from thine eyes. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, besiege thee. And what caught my attention in that first article was a particular thing the author said. Donald Trump's campaign of violent mass deportations, it's becoming its own forever war. It could drag on for years or decades without success. It's producing misguided military occupations, which when you think of a military occupation, what do you think of? A trench, a perimeter, restrictions, besieging. It's producing misguided military occupations of restive local populations. It's only going to intensify. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench, an occupation about thee, and compass thee round and keep thee in on every side. And they shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, not sparing man, woman, child, pregnant woman. And they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. That devil coming down in great wrath and showing no mercy to you Israelites. And you 2/3 are going to have no hedge around you. Again, what did he say in Dope? It started off someplace in the Middle East, but what are you going to do when they start bombing places like Oakland or Crenshaw? They're calling them terrorists, but how long before they start calling, American citizens terrorists? But now I'm gonna go to my last bit of information on Secular Talks YouTube channel with Kyle Kulinski, because not only are troops, ICE and whoever getting armed to the teeth, AI is also going to be used to make this culling that much more efficient. And you've already got ICE agents using AI and facial recognition with tools, related to Palantir to, what's that word I'm looking for? To identify dissidents, whether legal or illegal. But the title of this article is They Want to Delete You with AI Robots. And the other day I did a video on those Chinese humanoid robots they had performing at the Chinese Lunar New Year celebration. And then footage was released, whether it was AI or not, showing those same robots with assault rifles. So not only are you going to have to deal with flesh and blood men, but you're going to have to deal with steel and wired soldiers, robots. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes, and I'm going to start it at the 3-minute and 57-second mark.
Musk's xAI and Pentagon reach deal to deploy Grok in classified systems. Huh? Yeah, what can go wrong? Elon Musk.
What if you could clean your retainer at the touch of a button? No more brushing or tablets. Over 4 years ago, our team of engineers
who programmed Grok to be anti-woke, so Grok was out there saying, I'm Mecha Hitler. You remember that? That same guy with his AI company, they're going to deploy that in classified systems? Are you insane? Like, are you actually insane? And this is what happens when you're governed by total fucking idiots. Not only are they idiots, they're also totally bought and owned by the AI tech billionaires. Okay? So now they're doing shit like this. Like, the decisions they're making are, like, astonishingly stupid. But I'm still not done because this story gets even darker. Ready for this? This Anthropic and Pentagon standoff is not getting enough attention. Anthropic is prepared to walk away from a $200 million contract because they're concerned about how the Pentagon wants to use their technology for autonomous weapons and mass surveillance. We are at a dangerous intersection. So Anthropic was going to get a $200 million contract from the Pentagon. And they said our only rules are you cannot use our AI to autonomously work weapons without a human intervention, okay? And you cannot use our AI to do mass surveillance. Those were their only things that they said, here are conditions. That's it. Well, Pete Kegsbreth, Secretary of War Crimes, goes, we're breaking up. We're not going to do a contract with you. We're going to do a contract with the other companies that don't have that stipulation. We're going to do a contract with a company that says it's okay to use our AI to do autonomous murder weapons and mass surveillance on innocent people. So stop and think about that. And Anthropic, like, now they're getting this reputation as like the only AI company that has some standards, the only AI company that has some moral limits where they say, hey, this is unacceptable. And so they're getting that reputation. But stop and think about it. They could miss out on this $200 million contract. All the incentives in the system don't have any rules and let these psychopathic fascist war criminals use the AI for all sorts of evil shit. Like, I love how it's just assumed, like, of course you're going to let us illegally spy on all Americans. Of course you're going to let us destroy the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution with your highfalutin technology. Duh! It's assumed. How we fell this fast so far is mind-boggling. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Kegsbreth has threatened to cut Anthropic from the Pentagon supply chain unless it agrees to its technology being used in all lawful military applications. This includes Kegsbreth demanding an answer from Anthropic by Friday, U.S. threats to invoke the Defense Production Act over Anthropic. Oh, I forgot to mention that part. That if they reject the deal, they're now threatening Trump is going to use the Defense Production Act to just basically steal the technology of Anthropic. Like, this is evil empire shit. We are the Fourth Reich. Like, we just are that. Like, the shit that we're witnessing is just, I can't even, how quickly everything unraveled like that in the Trump regime is just astonishing. A meeting between Kegsbreth and Anthropic CEO today. Anthropic expressing concerns about its model being used for lethal missions. Anthropic is back under pressure. So the only people trying to do even a semi-decent thing, hell is being rained down on them. I fear for the future of humanity. I really do. And it should also concern you that you had the head of safety at one of these AI companies. I think we talked about this. There was the head of safety who basically wrote a resignation letter and was like, yeah, I'm done. And I'm moving to like a remote part of the world to write poetry and get as far away from this as I can because I think shit is going to sort of fall apart, ski.
That's exactly what's going to happen. Shit is getting ready to roll downhill fast. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 15 in the Apocrypha. I'm going to start at 14. Woe or destruction to the world and them that dwell therein. What do we start off with at Revelation 12 verse 12? Woe to the earth and the inhabitants therein, for the devil is come down in great wrath. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. And that one people against another goes into many things. Race wars, class warfare, political warfare, Egyptian against Egyptian, citizen against non-citizen. Hey, you've got these things brewing south of the border with that cartel war going on. And now you got talks of the U.S. military getting involved. I think you just had a U.S. citizen get killed on the border. And, there's fears of sleeper cell attacks, narco-terrorist attacks. It's about to get nasty. And swords in their hands. And the modern day sword in America is that gun, which we can see, ICE is getting heavily prepared with these swords to the tune of $144 million worth. For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. And sedition means conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. You got more and more people turning against the Nero 47 administration. And, it's eventually going to go from throwing words at each other to throwing lead at each other. Egyptian against Egyptian, brother against brother, city against city. Hence, why a lot of these warehouses are popping up and being converted into detention centers. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And your modern day kings and princes are these people in the government. It's going to get to the point to where a suit and a tie, a badge or a uniform is not going to matter. and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. What does that sound like? Lockdowns, state of martial law, a siege. For because of their pride, and this is one of the main reasons this great destruction's coming down, is the great pride you people have been walking in, especially in America. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed by gunfire, ordnance, anything you can think of, ransacking, and men shall be afraid. And we're coming into the times of Jacob's trouble, which, all you heathens are going to be casualties of Jacob's trouble. But the Heavenly Father is really going to be punishing 2/3 of you Israelites for not taking heed to the words of his men, the prophets. And just as the Romans came in during 70 AD, hey, they're about to come in again. This is Ezekiel chapter 21. I'm going to start at verse 9. Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith Yahweh, say a sword. A sword is sharpened and also furbished. It is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It contemneth the rod of my son as every tree, and he hath given it to be furbished that it may be handled. This sword is sharpened, and it is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. And in Psalms 17 verse 13, it says, the wicked is the sword of the Lord, and the wicked, as pursuant to Malachi 1 verse 4, are the Edomites. So, this cruel king and fierce Lord, as he's looking to be, in Isaiah 19 verse 4, Nero 47, hey, he's an Edomite, and his administration has the appearance of being for, Edomite supremacy. And we can see that they're stocking up with this sword so that it may be furbished to make a sore slaughter. Mainly on who? Verse 12, cry and howl, son of man, for it shall be upon my people. It shall be upon all the princes of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Terrors by reason of the sword shall be upon my people. Smite therefore upon thy thigh. So that's it with this lesson. With this lesson, I hope you sincere, Akim and Akwath were edified. Hey, just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And actually, I might actually get 2nd Esdras 16. Jump down to verse 70. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection. Hey, the enemy shall besiege thee and cast a trench about thee upon those that fear the Lord, you Israelites, both the righteous and the wicked. They shall be like madmen, ICE, foreign or domestic troops, AI, drones, robots, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses and send them where? To those detention warehouses. But the difference being 2/3 won't have that hedge around them, so they're going to get the full force of that sword. But as for the 1/3 of the elect in America, then shall they be known, who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. Hear, O ye my beloved, saith Yahweh, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide. Hey, to you sincere Akim and Akwath, again, just keep staying strong in Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai and doing whatever you can to please him, so that when this enemy comes down like a flood, as it says in Isaiah 59 verse 19, that standard, that protection will be set up. But again, that's it with this video. I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.